Yeah, there's gonna be a buffer, so give it a second. Nothing. Good. Okay, everybody, we're just waiting for Mark to come in, and we'll get this started.
Hey, how are you? Okay, thank you. Right. Okay. Right. It's my pleasure. Well, I mean, you only live life once, and if you have a dream, then, follow that dream. You might not succeed, you know, but you'll have no regrets and you'll have fun on the way. Uh, People have a lot of different expectations of what they want in life. And, it's up to you to go out and grab what you want. I just took a chance, and in my heart that I told so many people that I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, that I could not quit or I could not give up, you know. And there's a lot of hardships going into it. I mean, everybody sees the finished product of the movie, but they don't see your life struggling to get there, you know. So people always think these people on film are doing great, but it's not always the case. You know, it's a hard struggle to get there. Uh, Always having to, I wouldn't say be better than other people, you know. That would be the wrong term, but I mean, always having to prove to other people that you were just the same, you know. Because of being a foreigner in Hong Kong, you got made to look stupid. Uh, you know, you didn't get to shine a lot, you know. Um, Fortunately, I met the right people, and they helped me a lot, and they helped me to showcase what I could actually do, you know. So I was lucky in that case. A lot of Westerners have come over here, and their martial arts skills have been great, but they've never got the opportunity to show it, you know, which is a shame. Uh, but I mean, there are some pioneers that came out to Hong Kong, a small group of Westerners, and they all went through the same thing. We were paid very cheaply. Sometimes you did a film and didn't get paid. No, no, it was just the way we were actually treated to start with. You know, I mean, we were kind of, the Westerners in Hong Kong were kind of lower than the extras in the locals' eye. It was only the director, the action director, that appreciated us, you know. But everybody thought we were the lowest part of the extras, you know. So you know, there's a lot of pride to be swallowed, um, and determination to show people that, you know, hey, I'm just the same, you know. You don't want to outshine anybody because then jealousy comes in, but you want to just make sure that you show just enough for them to give you a chance, you know. So it was a very funny road to walk. You had to know exactly what to do, what to say at the right times, you know.
Did you did you find yourself fitting into a community of other foreigners very quickly when you started working in Hong Kong?
Actually, I kept myself away mostly from other foreigners. I mean, there was a few that I got close to, you know, and we'd go out drinking and that together and that. But basically, I always kept myself away. I mean, like Eddie Maya at the gym in Tim Sai Chow East, and all the actors used to go there. So a lot of the Western guys that went there, they all went to this gym so they could like work out with the stars and rub shoulders and think that would get them in and get them more parts, you know. But I took the opposite. You know, I kept away from everybody. I didn't really like to, as you call it, kiss ass or shine shoes, you know. And I was basically quite straightforward in my thoughts of other people. So I kind of like upset a few people along the way, you know. Um, but I mean, I respected everybody that came here. You know, they had similar goals to me, and they went through similar things to me. And to give up everything to follow a dream, you've got to respect some people. You know, and some of the Westerners that came here have done pretty well. They've gone on to be registered stuntmen in their own country. stunt coordinators, choreographers, So I mean, they've done pretty well. So hats off to them. I mean, for me, after living in Hong Kong so long, I call myself a Lai Wang Bao, which is like a custard bun. So it's kind of like white on the outside, yellow on the inside. My mentality has changed, and I just can't go back to the UK or go back to any Western country to live because I don't fit in that sense the way I act, the way I talk. So now Hong Kong is my home, and I just stayed here. Um, in saying that, the Hong Kong industry has kind of died. So there's not much opportunity for actors, action actors now in Hong Kong. So it's a real sad thing to do, and a place to be in. So I mean, trying to bring back the Hong Kong industry, but it's so hard to do. Everybody's going to China now. I still got a dream now to put back into the industry what was taken out, what advantages we got from it, what opportunities we got from it, what little I wouldn't say fame, but what little recognition we got from it. And it's time to try and put it back in and resurrect the action industry. And it's not easy to do, but hopefully that we can make one or two better films that come out of Hong Kong and start it back on where it should be.
So we talked to Bobby Samuels also recently. Did you ever interact with Bobby while you were in Hong Kong?
Oh yeah, I mean, I used to work in a nightclub part time for security. It was a kind of like karaoke nightclub, and it was owned by Macca and Sammo Hung. So a lot of celebrities went there. A lot of let's say gangsters went there. So it was a happening place to be. Um, and Samo brought in uh, Samuel Roberts, and he introduced me to him and asked me if I could take him under my wing and look after him. So I said sure, no problem. So um, I gave him some advice. I gave Bobby some advice. He talked to me now and then when he had something on his mind. And I just tried to steer him in the right direction. And again, Bobby is one of those that have really done well for himself, and he's taking it to the next level and he's producing and directing in the States his own little things. So I mean, hats off to him. He took what he could from Hong Kong. He did some good little cameo parts while he was here. And he took that knowledge and that experience, and now he's doing his own thing in the States. So yeah, he's also one of the pioneers. All these Westerners that came here to start with, it we're all pioneers in some way. We all did our part. We all did a little bit to help the Hong Kong industry, or how Westerners perceive uh, the Hong Kong industry and the chances of getting into it.
Sorry. JJ Hayden has a question about Eddie's gym. First of all, he's asking. I think we would like to know more about Eddie's gym because we remember watching Eddie in Pedicab Driver and a whole bunch of other martial art films. And also, was he was one of the people that stayed in Hong Kong? Was he from Hong Kong originally?
Uh, he was born in Macau, so of Portuguese father and a Shanghainese mother. No, and then he moved over to Hong Kong when he was very young. No, so yeah, I mean this was his home. so he would have never left. But I mean, Eddie did. Eddie was a crazy guy. He ran away at 16 and joined the Portuguese army and did time in Africa. But that's something that he didn't like to talk about. He kind of kept it quiet. And then he came back, and then he went to Japan and did karate. Then he went to Thailand, did kickboxing, Thai boxing. And then he come back, and then he started fighting for a Chole Foot school, even though he knew no Chole Foot. But his fighting ability was extraordinary. And he became Hong Kong middleweight champion in them times. The time he opened up his gym, I didn't know him. I knew of him because I was told this guy's got a gym, all the stars going there. And I was like, no, I'm not going. No, I would rather go to another gym by myself. So I knew of Eddie. I knew who he was. He'd heard of me because I was getting into a lot of fights when I first arrived here. And it was like this Westerner was a troublemaker. He's always getting into fights. It was like kind of my reputation. No. So he'd heard of me, but we kept away from each other until we met on the set of Mad Mad Ghost with Lam Ching Ying, and we kind of hit it off straight away. It was funny because one of the crew behind the camera asked me to teach him some kung fu, and Eddie sat watching, and he started laughing and said, "Oh, kung fu's useless." He's fought all these kung fu masters in these competitions in Hong Kong, and not one of them beat him. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And then he goes, "Well, you really think that works?" I goes, "Oh, I think I can make it work." So he said, "Okay, try." So he stood up, and everybody went quiet. And Bigo was the director. Bigo was Bruce Lee's top stuntman. And everybody went quiet, and they turned the camera to us because they thought we were going to fight. And within 30 seconds, I got Eddie sitting on his butt. And the whole place went quiet, and Eddie stood up and he just walked off. And people called to me and goes, "Oh, he's going to come back. You and him are going to really fight." I goes, "Okay. What will be, will be, And 5 minutes later, he come back and shook my hand and said, "How the hell did you do that?" And then we become best of friends after that. And we used to hang out all over the place. And Eddie was older than me, so I used to call him Dad. I say, "Hey, Dad." And he'd call me son, And we take the piss out of each other so much, But we had a great relationship with each other. Unfortunately, by the time I met him, his gym had closed. And he was running an electronic company. So I never went to his gym, so I can't really answer any questions about the gym. But Eddie himself was an extraordinary person. He had the heart of gold. He would do anything to help anyone, And on top of that, he didn't take bullshit, the guy could fight. He was a fighter, And he did train a lot of Hong Kong movie stars. And at one time, he was a personal trainer to Samo. When Samo was doing Eastern Condors. And he went to Canada with them filming. And he was trying to keep Samo on a strict diet. And one night, Samo kept sneaking down to raid the fridge at night. And Eddie found out. So one night, Samo come down to raid the fridge, and he couldn't get it open because Eddie put a big chain and padlock around the fridge to keep it locked, But Eddie was a great character. It's a really shame that he died at such a young age. he was a freak. I mean, he used to run like between 10 to 20 miles a day. You know, he had not an ounce of fat on him. He never drank, he never smoked. But, you know, he ended up having heart problems and clogged arteries and, you know. So, I mean, in this world, you never know when your time's going to go, no matter how fit and how cautious you are of what you eat and drink, you know. So the thing is, you just got to follow your dream and live life to the best you can, you know.
Yeah, I'm thinking about Brad Allen right now, who recently passed too. Um, we we all have an expiration date and don't know what that is. Um, Patrick Nan, who edited your episode, by the way, did an amazing job and pulled up videos. I'm not sure. I don't know if they existed before Patrick found them. So he's asking in the chat if there was ever a point where you had any doubts about working in the 80s and 90s in Hong Kong.
No, I had no doubts. No, because the thing is, I had a skill that could be used. You know, I mean, I've said it before. Us as being action actors, you know, we were really classed as human props, which were expendable. As long as you could get the best action out of us, they didn't care whether we got hurt or could carry on with future movies, you know. They just wanted to bring out the most excitement they could. And at Hong Kong, I mean, you watch a Hong Kong movie, it's not about the script, it's not about the acting ability, it's about the fights, it's about the stunts and how dangerous, how exciting they are, you know. So Hong Kong directors and stunt directors at that time just wanted to push it to the next level. And there was no safety aspect in Hong Kong, you know. They come up with an idea on the spot, and you know, if it was dangerous, you couldn't really say no, because if you did, they wouldn't hire you again. Because if you have to, you get this guy and you won't do it, and you have to double him, you have to do this, you have to do that. You know, we just might to hire someone else. You know, so I mean, you could never say no. You know, I mean, I think one of the foreigners that did the most dangerous stunts was Steve Tatalia. You know, because he'd jump from rooftop to rooftop, which is like 5 or 6 floors up, with no safety net or no safety aspect of it, just to please the directors, you know. But I mean, if he was a misjudgment of the distance, or you know, he fell, then no one would care, you know. And that's the thing. I mean, we had to push ourselves further than the local stuntmen did, and the local stuntmen do some real dangerous shit, you know. But they were they're trained for it. I became a stuntman. I become a member of the Hong Kong Stunt Association, but I wasn't trained as a stuntman. No, I was a martial artist. I had good reaction. I had good technique. And then they would say, okay, this is a stunt we want you to do. We want you to jump from here. We want you to fall on here, you know. And it's just a case of having to, you know. And you just look at the stunt and you go, well, you know, you don't want to think about it, because the more you think about it, the more frightened you get about it. So you just take it out of your mind and you wait for the director to shout, roll camera. And then you get ready in action. You just do it without thinking. And just as you're in midair falling, you're just praying that you survive it, you know. And yeah, there was a lot of injuries, but you just carry on, you know.
Bobby has entered the chat. He's calling you his Daigo. So Bobby's here. He's watching.
Nice to see you, Bobby.
So Phil, also who works here with me at Super Alloy. Here's Phil. There's Phil.
Yeah, right.
Hi, Phil.
Phil is asking, How did you adapt to the people that you worked with, that you fought alongside? I guess that's a performance question and also a being directed question, because you're going to have to adapt to a new teacher as a director. You're also going to have to adapt to another performer. How did you find yourself adjusting as you went?
Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of the actors were non-martial artists. They were dancers, singers, um, but they could pick up the choreography pretty easy. But at that time, um, I, I'm very heavy-handed because of being a Hung Gar practitioner, you know. So my Q sow is pretty hard, so they'd have to put pads on them. Um, Sometimes I had trouble with reactions. I had to learn how to react differently on movie and as a martial artist, you know. Um, as, as you train as a martial artist and you train as a fighter, you don't want to show pain. You don't want to show that you're hurt. So that there's no facial reactions as a fighter, you know. But these are what sell the movements in the film, you know. It's your facial reactions, your body reactions, you know, absorbing a punch, you know, reacting to it, rather than in a fight you absorb it and hide it, you know. So that's why a lot of great fighters came here. Their reaction to being hit wasn't there, and they couldn't make it as actors. So first of all, you have to change that. You have to realize that it's not about you. Okay, it's not about you being a great martial artist or great fighter or whatever. It's about you being able to sell that actor's action movements, you know, make him look good. And if you could make him look good, you could work together with him, then they would like you to work more and more, because they always like people to make them look good. If you are too stiff or you have no facial reaction, or when they hit you, you don't show pain and your body doesn't react, then you're going to make them look stupid on film. So, of course, they're not going to want to work with you again. So just learning how to sell other people's reactions, you know? And once you understood that, then you know you got more work, because people go, this guy looks good, he knows how to work with an actor, you know. And this is what you had to change, and this is your mindset you had to change in. You couldn't go in and go, oh, I'm a martial artist, I'm a fighter, I want to be a superstar as a fighting star, so I'm going to come to Hong Kong and I'm going to beat everybody up, and then everybody's going to know who I am, and I'm going to become this major star. It doesn't work like that, you know. You always have to sell other people's actions first. And that's what the stuntmen do. And they have a fantastic job. That the action era in Hong Kong could not have happened without Hong Kong stuntmen. You know, they're a special breed, you know. And they suffered so much. And even today, I mean, they've done so much great work and they don't get appreciated for it, you know. You only got to have total respect for that, you know. And lucky that I got to go under a lot of good people. I mean, first of all, I got to go under my sifu, Lao Galiao. So he taught me not only real traditional martial art, he also taught me about movie action, reaction, you know. And he always said to me, he says, you know, when you're casting for action people, you know, you got to look for three things. So the first thing you got to look for is the overall look. Do they look the part as the leading actor or actress, you know? Do they have that charisma in their eyes? Do they have that look that people just gaze on and want to follow, you know? That's the first thing you got to look at. Then the second thing you got to look at is their ability to do action, you know? Do they look good? Do their martial arts good? Can they pose? You know, is their reaction between another person or a group of people, you know, fit in with their reactions? That's the second thing he said you got to look at. And then the third thing you got to look at is what they say beauty is facial expressions. You know, can he act? Is he believable? You know, so you're looking at an action actor. You've got to look at these 3 points of it. You know, so you know, you have the actors that you're going to look at this, and you have the stuntman. You're just looking at, can they do the action? Can they react to the action? And do they have the facial expressions to show pain and whatever they need to do as they're fighting? You know, and I always remembered what he said about that. And I always tried to put it in every time I fought. I used my whole body to express the fight, you know, as well as facial expressions. But a lot of Hong Kong directors wanted the Westerners to, how to say, go too far, you know, with their expressions and that. You know, so they're kind of like, I don't know, I mean, a little bit silly, but they're not taken seriously as actors, you know. They want you to just look totally ridiculous at times, you know. But it was fun. I mean, you got to remember this, you know. You're coming here to Hong Kong, you're a foreigner, you're going to be the bad guy, you know. If they give you a fight where you look good, you're lucky, you know. Sometimes they go in the editing machine and in editing and just cut away all the best parts and leave the parts that make you look stupid, you know. But I mean, that's where you are. You've got to expect that, you know. I mean, as a Westerner coming to Hong Kong, you're never really going to be a movie star, you know. But you're going to be, if you put in the time and the work and the respect, you are going to be recognized and acknowledged for what you've done, you know. And there's a few Westerners are recognized and acknowledged for their time in Hong Kong, you know.
I wanted to ask, who were some of the stuntmen and action stars that Lau Galerong looked up to? What were his preferences?
Well, he preferred to use his own people, you know. So, I mean, he took a lot of disciples in the Hong Kong movie industry through stuntmen and actors, stars, you know. And he would take someone that was good at something, and he would mold him into what he wanted, you know. And he had the Lau Ga Ban or the Lau Stunt Team, you know, which you could see their faces in every movie, you know. And they just knew what he wanted. They knew how he worked, how he thought, you know. And they just work well together, having your own team that you've trained. And that's the thing in Hong Kong, all these stunt teams, you have Jackie's stunt team, Samo's stunt team, you have Lao's stunt team, you know. Everybody at their own stunt team are trained how they thought and how they fought on film. So everybody can work together and exactly knows what is expected of them, you know? Which is a very important thing to do.
We have another question from JJ Hayden. He says, sorry, Mark, I'm from the UK, but I'm a bit dodgy when it comes to accents. Where exactly do you hail from?
Okay. Actually, I was born in a small town called Nuneaton, just outside Bedworth, Coventry, you know. That time it was Warwickshire, but now they've changed it to West Midlands. But I left the UK when I was around 18, 19, and I went to live in Malaysia. And I was adopted by a Chinese family there. And the English wasn't too good. I had no Chinese knowledge at that time in speaking. So I kind of like used to speak in broken English so they could understand me. And then my English accent became like a Malaysian broken English accent, you know. And I remember when I first went back from Malaysia to the UK, I got to immigration in Heathrow Airport, and I couldn't find my passport. And the immigration officer said to me, he said, "Could you hurry up, please?" I said, "Yes, sir. Wait a minute, I can't find passport, huh?" And they took my passport and they took me in a room for 15 minutes to check if my passport was real. And at the end of this, "Oh, your passport's real." I said, "Of course, sir." They goes, "Well, you don't sound like you're English." And because now from Malaysia, I went back to the UK for a while, and then from the UK, I come to Hong Kong, and now I've been speaking Cantonese more than I do English. So my accent is really crazy. When I'm with Asian people, it's kind of like a broken English, and some people think I'm Russian. Uh, some people think I'm German or something like this. No one can actually point out where I'm from. But the more I speak with Westerners, then my accent, my British accent, slowly comes back into play. But yeah, I confuse a lot of people on that.
Can you talk about learning Cantonese? I have a little bit of experience learning it. You've been immersed. What was the hardest part of it? And uh, have you have what have you discovered in speaking in Cantonese?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm self-taught. I didn't take lessons. No, I just come to the point where in the industry where I'm working, not many people spoke English. No. Um, so I just used to work on learning one word a day. So I'd ask a word that would be commonly used, and somebody would tell me that word. Then I'll speak English. Then when I come to that word, I put that word in. Then I go back to English. And then with a lot of drinking games, you know, you play a lot of drinking games, you get drunk because, you're kind of like shy when you're not drunk and you're worried about saying something wrong or people laughing at you. So you go out at night and play drinking games, but you can't speak to them. So you just sit there, nothing to say. So you start playing these drinking games and you're getting drunk and you're getting friendly and you start asking questions or saying things that, you don't care people laughing at. And it's the kind of way I learned street Cantonese. So I learned all my Cantonese by myself. But I mean, I've been here now 30, 34 years
Yeah.
now. So eventually, you pick up more words in Cantonese than you speak English. So you eventually turn over and start speaking. But I mean, there's still some pronunciations I get wrong occasionally, and people laugh at me and say, "You've been here for so long, you're still getting that wrong." But I mean, yeah, I'm quite proud of my ability to speak Cantonese because I was never taught. I just picked everything up from listening myself and asking questions and things like that.
I found that learning it by treating it like a song rather than treating it like an essay. I mean, that's how I was always taught to learn languages. But then when I started learning Cantonese entirely through audio, it was just much easier because then you for me, I played it kind of like a song,
Yeah,
and because there's such this
especially there's so many tones in the language itself.
and
Yeah.
that can appear very daunting on paper, but then when you say it, it's kind of effortless. Um,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with Cantonese. There's so many different tones, so one word can mean so many different things depending on the tone it's said.
and it'll always mean a cuss word at some point for some
Yeah, so
reason.
you could get yourself into trouble with it. But basically, if you put it in a sentence, even if you get the tone wrong, people will understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So as long as it's in a sentence form, it's fine. But when you're saying one word at a time, be careful on the tone.
Yeah,
You might say
don't
something.
just never. Yeah, like when ordering crab, be very careful.
Yeah,
And, yeah, and drinking actually, it's strange. It's like drinking actually makes it easier. It seems all of your inhibitions begin to drop, and also those inhibitions allow you to, like you said, open up and just sometimes like without thinking. Like when I was in Beijing, I went out one night and I had some drinks and was just talking with people locally because I had taken Mandarin, but I sort of forgot it, and then it just kind of came back. I had conversation. At least I think I was having conversations, as far as I know. It
well, I
seems to be able to
mean,
do that.
I even dream in Cantonese now.
What does that mean? Like, what changed with
I
Cantonese?
know. I mean, you know, some of my dreams, I'm speaking Cantonese. I'm not speaking English, you know. So it's really funny. And in December, my mother passed, and I went back to the UK for the funeral. And after the funeral, we're at the wake, and I decided that I was going to get legless, you know. So I was knocking back whiskeys like crazy. And I mean, where my mother lived, I was brought up as a kid, you know. So and there was people that I saw that I hadn't seen since I was a kid. They were in the same place we were using the wake because we were in a social club for the wake. And I got drunk and I met some people I knew from my childhood. And I was standing there talking to them, telling them about my life. And my daughter comes up to me and taps me on the shoulder. And I look at her and she looks at me and she says, "What the hell are you speaking in Cantonese for?" They got no clue what you're saying.
They had to check. They
And I
had to
kind
take
of
take your
looked at them.
passport and check your identity again.
And these guys are standing there looking at me and their faces are like, and they got no clue what I was saying. And I'd been speaking Cantonese for the last 15 minutes. And I didn't realize it, you know. So that's pretty funny. Mm.
Is there? I mean, have you found that you order your thoughts differently when you think in Cantonese or when you speak in Cantonese? Is there any fundamental difference?
Uh, Sentencing wise, yeah, you know. English will be more straightforward, you know. Cantonese kind of like jumping, you know. So, I mean, it's a slight difference on that. But yeah, sometimes, I mean, it's 50-50. I mean, sometimes I'll think in English and then sometimes I'll think in Cantonese. It really depends on what I'm actually trying to do and the surroundings and everything. You know?
I have an abstract linguistic question for you. Do you think that if you think in Cantonese, it's easier to do Hong Kong style choreography?
Well, you know, I mean, good question.
It's a Chomsky
Well, you know,
question.
I did 1 or 2 category 3 movies. You know, I did one with a full frontal. But I'm never gonna tell anybody the name of the movie.
It won't
But it
make
did have action.
it won't make it in. Don't worry.
It did have action in it, so that we were fighting, you know. But it was just a weird movie. The director told me that it would only be shown in Taiwan. And after they released it, 2 weeks later, a friend and his wife were walking down the street, and they come up and they says, "We seen you in the new movie," and his wife standing behind laughing. And I'm like, and I just released Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon, you know, and I said, "What with Samo?" And he goes, "No, the one where you wear the leopard skin underwear." And I'm like, "Oh shit." And I called up the director and I said, "I thought you said that wouldn't be released in Hong Kong, it's only going to be released in Taiwan." And the director said to me, he says, "You really believe that?" But hey, man, you know, you got to earn a living. You know, some parts you're not proud of, but, you know, as an actor, you know, why not? I mean, in Western movies, you know, taking off your clothes is part of being an actor. You know, it's not pornography. You're not actually uh, doing hardcore porn. You know, but I mean, it was an experience.
Is there? I mean, because there are so many swear words in Cantonese.
Yeah.
But there also seems to be. Do you think that there's more of a taboo around saying them, and is there also more of a taboo around things like Category 3 films compared to in the West?
Okay. Well, I mean, Hong Kong, the language is Cantonese itself. It just uses so many swear words. You know, people use them as a greeting. sometimes, you know. There's one or two words that are kind of like taboo. If you say that, then it's going to be a fight, you know. But most words, most swear words are used as a greeting, you know. It's just the way they brought up and things. Even children are using a lot of these words, you know. Especially in the movie industry, you know. You make a mistake, dude, yeah, huh?
Yeah.
No, so you know, I mean, there's so many ways that it's just part of the industry, you know. Um, Category 3 movies, yeah, there's a big difference on how people think here. Um, a Category 3 movie here would be just like a normal love scene in a movie in the US. You know, you see a bit of breast, some butt, maybe a bit of pubic hair. That's it. You know. And there's nothing really to care about. But here, it's kind of like the stigma. You know, once you've done that, then you're categorized as that, and
Huh.
you know, it's very hard to get away from that. You know, but I used to tell people, hey, man, any publicity is good publicity. You know, so. But yeah, I mean, they were very. Once you got into category 3, you were looked down on a lot of times.
You were talking earlier about being a stuntman and the perception of stuntmen in Hong Kong. Is it also the case with being a stuntman that when you, say in your case, as a stuntman, as a stunt actor, um, even though you might achieve some kind of reputation, are you sort of classified as that? And is it then difficult to transition out of that into another profession in film, on camera at least?
Okay. I more class myself as an action actor, you know? Though I do my own stunts a lot. There's only maybe 2 or 3 times I've been stunt double, you know, but mostly I do my own. So and then being a member of the Hong Kong Stunt Association, I can say yes, I'm a stuntman because I've done that quality stunts as well. But I'm not a specialist stuntman. I wasn't trained as a stuntman. No, I've done the stunts. I've become a member of the Stunt Association. But you know, I kind of started doing stunts a bit too late in life. You know, I was like 28, 29 when I first got into the industry. And I wasn't, I mean, I'm a Southern Hong Kong stylist. We're grounded, we're solid, you know, we don't bounce or jump so high. And our gymnastic ability isn't that great, you know, rather to northern performers where they do somersaults and gymnastics and audition. So, I mean, I couldn't really do backflips, you know, somersaults standing on the ground, but I had the balls to jump off something and do it, you know. So from first floor, second floor, I do a backflip or a front flip from the first, second floor down onto the mats and on down onto the ground. So I would do that, but I just couldn't do it standing on the ground, you know. So I was limited to certain things of what I could do and what I couldn't do, you know. And those things I couldn't do, I just had to pray that when I did them, I survived it and didn't get hurt, you know.
Yeah. I'm thinking about in India right now. They're and for all of history, you know, your trade. A lot of the time, trades are handed down generationally. So, you know, if your father worked in steel, well, you're probably going to work in steel as well. There was very much a sort of like trade union aspect to life, and it
Yeah.
still operates a lot that way. Do you find that stunts functions somewhat like that in Hong Kong and in China?
Well, yeah, I mean, all stunt guys, they go on to becoming stunt choreographers. In their younger years, they do the stunts themselves to prove, you know, to give themselves a name, you know. And then once they got the name, they go become the choreographer, the action director, and then they start directing and doing it themselves. No, now there's a few Westerners that have kind of come in and done that, and then they've gone back uh, to their own countries. One guy is Mike Lambert from the UK, and when he first came here, he contacted me and asked me for uh, advice. And I said to him, Mike, before you do anything, learn the language. You know. So the first year or two he was here, he wasn't in film. He was a lifeguard. And he spent that time studying Cantonese. And his proficiency in Cantonese is very, very good now. You know. And I even introduced him to his wife. You know. So I mean, I gave him that advice. He went away. He learned Cantonese. He became very good at speaking Cantonese, and then he come back, and then he went into the industry, you know. And then he started following a group of stuntmen. He went training with them, you know, and he started he started doing trampolining, gymnastics, you know, and he became an all-round stuntman. And then from that, he went to the UK, joined the Stunt Association, and now he's quite well action director in the UK and everything now. So he's took that next step and carried on from there, you know, which is good. I mean, this, of course, things that you have to adapt and change to, because the way we do our stunts here, it would be probably not allowed in the West because the danger aspect. So you have to change some of the things to make it more safer for the stuntmen and for the actors. As you know, you have unions in the States and the West. Everything has to be done safely and correctly. Here, there's no unions.
I think people.
So you can abuse the stuntman, you can abuse your actors to get that excitement that you want on film, you know. So there's some things you can do here you can't do in the West, and that's why you can't. They haven't totally copied the whole way Hong Kong films do the action. You know, they've took the wire work since Yuen Wu-ping went to the States and did the Matrix and that. Not everybody in the States have learned Hong Kong wire work. But they think that because they do Hong Kong wire work, it's a Hong Kong movie. No, it's just a small portion of a Hong Kong movie.
Sure.
There's a lot more other things that go into it to make a Hong Kong movie. But I think now the Western stuntman have become much, much better, you know. And but in my time, there was no thing as free running or parkour. You know, you could say Jackie was the father of free running because of the way he used to do his stunts in his film. He's jumping from building to building, you know. So, I mean, now so many people have gone into this free running and now in their martial arts. Before, martial arts were just traditional martial arts, were based on fighting abilities. But now martial arts have taken on that showmanship. So a lot of martial arts have put in tricking into their forms, you know, and tricking has become more, percentage of tricking is more than the percentage of martial arts. And it's the tricking now that sells their martial arts, not the martial art itself, you know. But for film, for movies, for showmanship, you know, this is what you want, you know. In our days, we couldn't do that, you know. It wasn't around.
I mean,
and now these new people are coming out. These new stuntmen are coming out, and even the Hong Kong stuntmen now, they're starting to learn parkour, you know, free running, and they're putting that into their stunt skills. You know?
I would push back a little bit on that and say, you know, there is a value to the less explosive, the less northern, you could say, almost style of martial arts and tricking. It has, you know, it's beautiful, but sometimes we just want to see, a My Young Auntie fight where there are, I think, two
Yeah.
acrobatic
I mean, I mean,
movements.
I mean, to Lau Galong, he would take this kind of action and put it on a stunt, and that stunt replayed fast, slow motion, and fast again. So you'd appreciate it in that aspect. But then when it come to fighting, he wanted to show power. He wanted to make it believable, real. I mean, nobody believes traditional Chinese kung fu anymore. They don't believe it fights. They don't believe it looks good. And they think it looks stupid. There's no one now can make traditional Chinese kung fu look as powerful as what he did. You know, he had beautiful technique, but he made it look believable. And all these actors had to have real kung fu, you know, and they had to show that power. So it's the way he approached his choreography was totally different, you know. So when you wanted to show that real power, it'd be really close up shot. You'd see the intensity in the eyes, and then it would pull back for a headshot and then a quarter shot, and that 1/3 shot when they're fighting, you just see the upper body showing that power, and then reactions and that facial expression, and that power comes across, and then you pull back for the wide shot for that somersault, or that flip, or that stunt, and then you'd come back in again. So that's why in Hong Kong, when we filmed, it'd be like a certain camera angle for like 10 shots, 10 moves, and then pull back for the wide shot, and then change this shot and change this shot. So we'd always do individual shots, a lot of times in Western movies, they'll put 3 cameras up at different angles, and then have you do the whole fight scene in one go, and then edit it from them 3 different angles, So you lose that power, you lose that. And the thing is, with Hong Kong, as action director, I would tell the cameraman where I wanted the camera. I would have the idea of the fight and the power in my head, and then I would go into the editing studio and I would help edit that fight scene. So it'd be everything from here. I would bring it out on film. But when you have unions, you're not allowed to cross over into somebody else's space. So you have the director's idea of what the fight is. You have the stunt director's idea what the fight is. Then you have the editor's idea of what the fight is. So by the time it's finished editing, it's a completely different idea from what the action director actually had. So I mean, yeah, unless you can do a low budget movie where there's no union involved and you can cross over, or you have people working in the film that are willing to be told by someone else where to put their camera and this and that. I mean, it's very hard to follow a Hong Kong movie from the 90s.
I think people need to remember too that Hong Kong is a city. It's a city-state essentially, even though it's part of the PRC now, but it's a place of 7 million people. And if you try and take a production model or a studio model from a city of 7 million people and transplant it into the United States, which has 50 times that number of people, it's not a seamless transition. Everybody knows who worked in Hong Kong or who worked with Hong Kong directors and actors in the 90s, for example, and then tried to do that in studio films here. They'll all say the same thing, which is that there's a huge system working against you, like you said.
Yeah. I mean, that's why when Jackie or Jet Li went to the States and they did a Western movie, the action is never the same as what they do in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it's not the same. Sometimes, I'll give, benefit of the doubt. There are some, when you have everything still working together in an American film shoot, it can still work. But it's when you have a Hong Kong action team that's out of sync with the camera and editorial team, that's where you have that fissure, Aside from Lau Galerong's work, what are some of your favorite fight scenes?
With Frankie Chan. you know, Outlaw Brothers, oh yes sir, you know, they were. I mean, Frankie again is a director that loves Chinese martial arts, and he loves to express Chinese martial arts on film. And he was known as a director that gave Westerners a chance. You know, he hired a lot of Westerners in his films, and he always hired those that had exceptional skill in martial arts. You know, and he let them showcase their skills in his films as well. So I mean, yeah, I mean, working with him, uh, Outlaw Brothers, and oh yes, was the fight scenes in there were really good. No, another person that I really respected was Kofi, and I worked with him so many times in so many different films. And even times where he would hire other Westerners to come in and work for him, he would call me up and say, "Mark, can you come on set and help us teach this guy the action? Because you know how they move, you can look at their body and this and that." So I'd come on set and help him to teach some of the foreign actors the action, you know. And also when I worked with him, he'd allow me to choreograph my own fights, you know. So that was really good. So I really liked the fight scenes working with him as well. And of course, Skinny Tiger, Fatty Dragon with Sammo Hung. The uncut version
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah.
And it was great to work with him. I mean, each director, each action director had their own ideas and what they wanted, and everyone I filmed with, I learned from. You know, I took a little bit from everybody.
Yeah. I
Uh,
yeah. I wanted to ask you about Philip Gofei again, because when you watch his, and I recommend everybody dig up every old video of his that you can, because from 1979 to about 1982, his work, the way that he moves on camera, is so special. It's different than almost any other action. You know, he was kind of an action star. He was an action actor. Did he ever talk about doing those early films, and um, like how much input did he have into his action scenes? Because he was kind of, I mean, he's one of my favorites. You know, up there with Lau Galang.
well, originally, he's a Choi Lei Foot practitioner. You know, and then he went into Shaw Brothers. So you know, that time Shaw Brothers were all traditional Chinese kung fu movies. So you know, he fit in very well there as a Choi Lei Foot practitioner. You know, um, and he had a big influence from Bruce as well. He used to talk about Bruce a lot, you know, Enter the Dragon, working on that. Um, and I think you know he kind of took that, and that's why in his later movies, you know, he got that street style kickboxing where you throw in kung fu moves, you know, every now and then again, you know. So he'd spice it up. So you'd start off with normal free fighting, you know, and then halfway through, then you change, and then you do the kung fu type martial art, you know, and then you come back to the free fighting. So he kind of like put that in, you know. So he loved the Chinese martial arts, but he wanted he didn't he wanted kind of like a special reason to throw it out. Um, so he didn't want to just come out with martial art, Chinese martial arts. He wanted a street fighting, some pocket, you know, this type of fighting first, street fighting, and then you throw in a few Chinese kung fu moves to get the advantage, you know. So you know, I mean, again, he the way he choreographed and the way he came up with things again was amazing. You know, he was a legend in his own right.
Legendary on 99 asks, was there ever a moment when you disagreed with Lau Galerang's approach?
With Lau Galan's approach, no, no. He was my hero. No. Um, he was my God, you know. And whatever he said, it was like, yes, let's do it, you know. It was funny because one day I went for lunch with him, and of course, someone that you put on a pedestal, someone who's your hero, you want to believe that everything he says is 100%, you know. And we're having lunch, and he's talking about Wing Chun, and he says, "Well, how do you think Wing Chun came about?" You know, and he told me this elaborate story uh, about Wing Chun and the Shaolin nun Moi
And
going up
the goat between the legs.
going up to the mountains with the sheep,
Yeah.
and she's washing the sheep. She's got them between her legs.
Yeah.
She came out, and she's got horns trying to hit her, and she's Dan Sao, Bong Sao blocking it. And he goes, the nun saw this and took this as the basis of her martial art. You know? So this is where Wing Chun was born. And then after like 20 minutes, he said to me, "You think the story I told you is true?" And I said, "Well, it's got to be right." You said, he says, "No, I just made it up. It'd be great for a film." You know? So, you know, I mean, it did remind me that, you know, stories come from people. You know, history of martial arts come from people, where people can exaggerate. The thing is, with Chinese martial arts, not a lot was written down. It was all verbal. So everything is distorted. Yeah. Everybody has their own version of the history of the Chinese martial art. Yeah. With Japanese martial arts, mostly written down, so they have proof of the histories and everything. You know? So, you know, I mean, but yeah, I mean, there was times where I disapproved of certain choreography because that watered what I did down and didn't make me look good, you know, and I disapproved of that. But you know, I mean, even disapproving of it, you're not in the power to change. You know, you have to accept what it is and do what you're told.
So was he? I mean, was he very concerned about the real origins of martial arts, or was he more content with these more folk interpretations?
Well, I mean, it's got to a point now where he said to me, he says, everybody has a different interpretation of the history of their martial art, even if it's the same style. They do, but they're a different lineage, so their perspective of that style will be different to yours. No, he says you can't say to anybody they're wrong, and you can't say to anybody they're right. You know, it's just their perspective of what they think the lineage or history of their martial art is. You know, unfortunately, in Chinese martial art, that is the weak point because a lot of it wasn't written down. You know, and of course, if you have 10 students, when you die, they're going to fight amongst each other who learned the most, who's going to be the representative of their teacher, you know. So then they start to argue with each other. Stories that, oh, I was taught more than him. I was taught secret forms and things like this, you know. So, I mean, in a way that's hurt Chinese martial arts, you know. But, you know, I mean, we just have to agree to disagree and still have the respect and love for the art and the forms itself, you know. I mean, it's good to know your history of martial arts, where you come from. But having a great teacher doesn't make you a great martial artist. You know?
Yeah. I think
you know, it's about the ability of your skill, where you stand on today, not the ability of the ancestors of the style from yesteryear, you know. So, you know, but a lot of people try to sell their style because of the past. because they know their skill is inadequate. So they use the past to sell their style.
JJ Hayden says, this might be the only chance to get a definitive answer to this question. Did you play a U.S. soldier in Once Upon a Time in China?
No.
All right. Answers that.
Okay. Actually, Once Upon a Time in China, that when they were casting for it, Lau Gao-wing was the action director. And Lau Gao-wing called me up and said, Mark, go into casting, just fill in the form. I got a part for you in Once Upon a Time in China. So I went to the company. Everybody in there knew me except the casting girl. She's a new girl doing casting. And she's been told, you got to do this way, this way, this way, this way, you see. So I filled in the casting form, and then I was about to leave, and she said, oh, you've got to do a video of your martial arts skill for the action director to see. And I said, well, the action director told me to come here with friends. No, I said, I'm his brother's student. So he knows exactly what I can do. So it doesn't matter. And she goes, no, you've got to do the video for me. And I said, sorry. I said, I haven't got time now. I'm not doing it. I said, the action director knows who I am. And I left. And then she turned around and told Choi Hak that I swore at her. So then they didn't give me the part. And Lau Gao-wing came and goes, what did you swear at the girl for? I goes, I didn't.
Well, you were speaking Cantonese, though. Isn't it a high likelihood that you did?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I didn't swear at her, but I was kind of like a little bit rude or straight to the point, saying that I don't need to, you know. And I'm a personal friend of the action director, so you know. So I mean, yeah, that maybe if I'd have been a little bit more diplomatic, or I'd actually done a little demonstration for her, that I would have got the part in the movie, you know. But you know, it is what it is. And then later on, Gao-wing left. Lau Gao-wing left, and I think Samo took over the action director. You know, so you know. But I mean, the thing is, I mean, I'm really glad that I wasn't in that movie, because you know, even though it's about Wang Fei Hong, it doesn't represent Honggar. There's no Honggar used in the movie. You know, it was only Lau Ga-leung that portrayed Wang Fei Hong actually used Honggar. Every other movie about Wang Fei Hong is backfired. So you know, I mean, I prefer to, if it's Honggar, I prefer it to be real Honggar. You know, so I wasn't too bothered that I didn't get a part in the movie. No.
Yeah, I think. I mean, there have been a lot of. Because I always wondered, you know, there was this no shadow kick in Once Upon a Time in China, and Jet Li goes on a wire and he does this, and then you know, Lau Gao-leung does what I guess is also the no shadow kick, the Mo Yin Gup in Operation Scorpio, where he shows that it's a kick without showing the shoulder movement.
Yeah, shoulder movement.
And then
well, I mean, yeah, I mean, for traditional Honggar people, I mean, the Mo Yin Gup would probably be portrayed in the tiger and crane form, where you're doing the crane and then you come up, open the wings and kick, you know. And the thing is, what's happening is, when my hands are coming to your eyes, my hands now block your vision. So you don't see the foot move. So when the hands open, the foot is already there. You know? So the aspect, or the visual aspect of the Mo Yin Gup, the shadowless kick, is one, the shoulders are not moving, you're not telegraphing what you're kicking. The kick is a low kick. You know? and then you're using your hands to obstruct the eye line. So they don't even see the kick come, they don't even see it. So because they don't see it, they say, well, it's so fast, it's shadowless. But actually, their vision is being obstructed from seeing the kick itself.
Right.
You know?
Right. I wanted to ask earlier too. You were talking about learning how to react and learning how to be vulnerable as a stuntman because you're going from martial arts to looking vulnerable. You're doing this transition from very grounded Hungar style to very stunty style. Did you find that it was difficult then? Like, did you have to unlearn any of your stunts when you went back to Hungar, when you actually went back to training martial arts? And did you ever find yourself picking up bad habits?
No. I found that I evolved, you know. And this is the thing about my Sifu. We took traditional Chinese martial art and stunt choreography and molded them together, you know. And I did the same thing. I mean, I took the traditional martial arts and then I learned then to mold it with uh, action choreography so you could show it uh, better on film, you know. I mean, you got to remember when you're filming, it's entertainment, okay? But still, there has to be a degree of reality in what you're doing, you know, because if it's not real, unless it's a fantasy movie where you don't need reality in it, it doesn't need to make sense, then you can do whatever you want. But when it comes to a fight, there has to be a certain percentage of reality to make the audience believe that this would work, you know. And then on top of that, you're having the action choreography side where you learn to not over exaggerate, but just develop it and show it more, exaggerate the movement slightly, expand on that action, so it looks more beautiful to the eye, so it's more entertaining on film than it is in reality, so it's just learning how to tweak it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking now about tricking martial arts and probably a lot of Taekwondo and Hapkido also, because there are so many of these very flashy, totally impractical kicks that are great for bringing in students. They're great for demos. I guess any proper martial artist is going to have to find that line where they understand, okay, I'm learning flashy stuff in my martial arts system. It's curriculum, it's important, it's good for the body, whatever it is. And then at some point when I cross this line into practicality, I no longer use these things.
Well, they can be used, but you have to know when and where in that fight scene is going to be used. It can't be used in every movement you do. It's just going to be unbelievable. So I mean, if you're showing that power movement, that half body shot, and you're using that power, and you're showing that person getting hit and hurt, and that last one when he gets hit, palm, and he comes out of frame, and then he's showing his pain, and then you cut to a wide shot, and then you show the guy doing that big movement, that fancy kick, and coming down onto him in slow motion, and then hitting him palm, and then cut back into reaction, and then like that, it looks good. You can apply it. You can make it look believable because the guy was hurt, and he was not conscious of his surroundings while this was being done. But if you have the guy where he's still fresh, he's not been hurt, he's not been hit, he can react, he can move, and then you're doing these kicks, and then thinking, it's so impractical, it doesn't look real. The guy could just move out the way, So I mean, it's how you choreograph it and where you put it in at the right essential moment, So I mean, yeah, I mean, all these tricking, all these techniques can be used to look good, but don't overuse them, and only put them in at the right places in the fight scene.
Yeah. Um, a dude 85 asks, did Jackie and Lau Garlong ever mend the fence after Drunken Master 2?
No.
Never.
Uh, I mean, uh, I wouldn't say my Sifu hated Jackie, but after Jungle Master 2, he just didn't want to mention his name, didn't want to talk about it. He didn't disrespect Jackie. He didn't talk bad about him. But as far as he was concerned, uh, the relationship was over, and now you do your thing, he does his thing. I mean, my master isn't a person that's going to talk bad about anybody. No, he would never do that. No. If he has a disagreement, then he just moves away. No. And does what he does and let you carry on doing what you did. So yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate that Drunken Master didn't turn out exactly how his ideas were. No. But again, I mean, like they say, when you have too many chefs, cooks in the kitchen, I mean, you only need one chef, and when you have two or three people with the same ability in the film industry, it's very hard for one person to let go and let another person totally override the film. And that was the thing. I mean, Jackie was in a position in all his life where he has total control over his films, you know. And then, it was bound to the two of them have disagreements, what they thought the action should look like. So it was just agreed to go their separate ways. I mean, but we did film about 80% of the film. It's just the ending fight scene that wasn't filmed. Um, but still, I mean, even though I think it could have been a better movie if my Steve would have done the ending. Um, but again, Jackie did a great job. It won awards. It was a good movie to watch. So, I mean, you know, it was a successful movie in a sense.
So, Mark, what action films do you watch nowadays? Do you watch the new Hollywood films? Do you watch the Korean action films, Thai action films? What do you have your eyes on right now?
Uh, I like the Thai and Indonesian ones because they approach the stunts and they approach the action a bit like old time Hong Kong era of the 90s. Um, and they're also pushing themselves to the limits, doing their stunts, doing crazy things to entertain. So I like to watch their films a lot. You know, um, the Koreans, of course. I mean, whether it's Korea or Thailand or Indonesia or whatever, anywhere now is making films better than Hong Kong. You know, but I still don't think the Koreans have got the action uh, going the same direction as the Thais or the Indonesians. No, I still think some of the Korean films, uh, some of the action is again, it's like you're saying, it's kind of not believable. No, I mean, but the look at the Indonesian guys with the raid and all this. I mean, the fighting, the action is bloody. It's powerful. It's entertaining, you know. So I mean, yeah, I mean, I really like that. And one of that, I saw a Japanese movie the other day where one of the guys from the Indonesian team was hired to be the main bad guy in this Japanese film. You know, I mean, the film itself was totally weird, uh, but you know, it's good. I'm quite happy that they're recognized for the skill they have and the fight action they're doing now. So you know, I mean, yeah, I think that the Indonesians and the Thais have got the best action going out at the moment.
What's your take on Hollywood action right now?
Uh, I mean, of course, I mean, you're watching a Hollywood movie, you're watching the storyline, you believe the actors, you believe the plot, you know, and the actual like car stunts and that, of course, are way ahead of those in the East, you know. But I still see some of their fight scenes are very basic uh, and predictable, you know. Um, I mean, they're trying to improve, you know. I mean, John Wick's doing a great job, you know. But still, a lot of the movements in John Wick, I would have not believed, no. But still, I mean, to me, John Wick is the closest action they got to an Asian movie, you know. Um, but sometimes I don't see the power where it should be, you know. I mean, I really don't understand why now. What I do is to do with the unions and people crossing over to other people's parts, you know. But I mean, the quality of the stuntmen in America now, their abilities, what they can do, you know, I think they actually surpass the Hong Kong stuntmen now. The new Hong Kong stuntmen, uh, I think, cannot do what the US stuntmen can do now. No, and I'm just talking about fight choreography and reaction. No, I'm not talking about uh, other stunts like car stunts, high falls, and that. No, I'm just talking about the fight choreography action. No, but however, because of the rules of engagement are different, when it comes out on film, they can't get it to look the same. You know, but I think their skill levels now are surpassed Hong Kong stuntmen.
Well, we also have this tendency to pull in any talent around the world that we possibly can. We're a very import heavy economy. You know, a lot of our major action stars, you know, they're foreigners. I mean, we did also have Asian action stars in the 80s, and we had guys like Arnold Schwarzenegger with accents, and they were action stars. They were obviously foreign. Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jason Statham, you know, and then also, you know, now we have Eco. Eco is making a lot of American movies. Tony Jaa has done American movies. We pull people in a lot, and that is probably one of our greatest traits as an, you know, in our action industry, is that we pull in everything. We're probably even better about it now ever since like the Hong Kong handover, because we really pulled it in then. And I mean, you look at wire work in 1998 and you compare it to now, it's like night and day. And I
Yeah.
agree with you with fight choreography. So what do you think? Uh, what do you think Hong Kong needs to get back on top?
Uh, well, the thing is, I mean, now it's the attitude of the younger generation of Hong Kong artists. Now they listen to stories about how we choreographed fights before, and they're like, "Do you really need to suffer that much? Can't we use a green screen or blue screen? Can't we use a stunt double? Can't we do this? Do we have to do it ourselves? You know?" So it's the mentality that is just completely changed. You know, I mean, in the 80s, 90s, you know, Hong Kong action actors knew martial arts. They knew a martial art, you know, and they were so hungry to do their own stunts, to do their own action as much as they could. They really wanted it, you know. But now the younger generation, they don't want the pain and suffering to go with it. They're not martial artists. They're singers, they're dancers. Their idea of film is completely different to what Hong Kong was before. Hong Kong was just an action film society, you know. I mean, from Shaw Brothers down, everything was about kung fu, kung fu, kung fu. So if anybody knew martial arts, then they wanted to become a stuntman or an actor because they knew that in Hong Kong movies, that's what they'd be doing. But in the West, it's not about your physical ability; it's about your acting ability, your screen presence, you know. And then action. Are you in an action movie or just drama movie? You know, if you're in a drama movie, you don't need action. Or if you need action, it's just a very limited amount of action you need to do. With tight shots, camera angles, or stunt double, you know. So you weren't relied on to sell a film with action, you know. Where in the whole Hong Kong days, you had to do the action to be able to sell the film. So action sold film, you know. And because now we don't have that, the new generation don't have that mentality, they don't have that skills set that the older generation in Hong Kong had. Now Hong Kong films have taken more of a drama aspect than action aspect. You know? So now Hong Kong is all television dramas with some action in. It's not an action film, you know, in a sense.
When do you think that transition happened, and was there an event or was it a gradual cultural shift?
I think it was a gradual shift, you know. Um, when the Hong Kong movies started to go down, we didn't have the artists to take over from those that left, you know. I mean, there'll never be another Jackie Chan from Hong Kong, you know. Donnie Yen, there should never be another Donnie Yen. He's the last of his generation, you know. Now, if you're talking about martial art actors, you're talking about mainland Chinese ones who spent their life training wushu. You got Western actors that are brought up watching these movies, that believed in these movies, and trained their martial arts out of the love of these movies, and then use that to go into their dream of becoming an action actor in the West. You know? So, you know, but again, I mean, it's not about, you don't have to be a great martial artist to be an action actor in a Western movie. You just have to have the screen presence and the fan base and the good acting abilities to take that part. You know, in Hong Kong before, you could be a bad actor, but if your martial arts and screen presence was good, it didn't matter, you know.
Yeah, and we used to have a market for that. It was the B film market, and that was a
Yeah,
very successful industry. Made a lot of they were not good movies and they were not great actors, but it serviced a huge. So many of us were inspired by those movies, and then there were economic reasons why that industry bottomed out. The middle sort of bottomed out, and you were then left over with just Hollywood films, the blockbusters, and then indie films, and that's where we, with that middle hollowed out, we said, well, we can't. We're not gonna try and go up there. I mean, we're looking at movies made in 2001, 2002. We can't do awesome action in those. We'll just do indie, and we were hungry, and
yeah.
I think maybe
Well,
places where people.
I mean, in a sense, indie is the best way to go because it gives new filmmakers an opportunity to do something on their own and prove that they have a passion, a love for film, and they have a skill set to put something good on film, and you're not always getting turned down by all these big companies are having to go through these big companies have total control over it, So I mean, yeah, I mean, it's the way to go. I mean, if you have a passion for film, if you have an idea to put on film, if you have a skill set in action, you want to put on film, then yeah, go ahead, produce an indie movie and show people what you can do. And once you let people know who you are and what you can do, then maybe you get a chance to do something greater.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the breakout hits that we love, like Ong Bak and The Raid. I mean, those were high budget films for where they were, but those are not high budget films in the scope of things. These are still very
Yeah,
raw films made by people who are hungry, who want to do something really cool. It's not made by a bunch of people who are interested in being movie stars answering a casting call. These are groups of people that just love beating each other up. They love it for the sake of doing it, the relationships, and they all love Hong Kong cinema. Every one of them.
yeah,
So, that was the groundwork. Um, and thank you so much for giving us insight into that history, Mark. This has been really
yeah.
awesome. Uh, and thank you so much for your time. And I would love to do this again with you because I feel like we could keep talking. And this has been really
Yeah, I mean,
educational.
if I can advise or help people to follow their dreams, then I haven't wasted mine. I mean, everything evolves, and I got to a pinnacle uh, that got me recognized and got me appreciated for what I did. And I appreciate that. And if I can take it to the next level now and help people to go further than I did, you know, then that would be itself satisfying. know.
Well, thank you
So,
again, Mark.
I hope I can help others follow their dreams and be better than me, be more successful than me, and take it to the next level.
It's hard to top 1990s Hong Kong police detectives using Hung Gar to take down the assailant, but we'll try. We'll try and we'll do our best. I mean, again, all of our inspirations are the same. You're right up there. Um,
Yeah.
so, thank you,
But
Mark. Yeah.
the main thing you got to remember is, now, even when you fight, you're telling a story with body movement. No, so don't just fight for the sake of fighting. No, make a story of why that fight happens, and then within that fight, have a story of how it develops and where it goes. Uh, let the fight itself tell a story, and make sure you show power. There's got to be 70% power in that fight. No, and 30% entertainment. No, and you should find a good balance. Because you're going to make it believable, and that's what you want.
You're making me think of something right now that is so much of Western martial arts is actually, in my opinion, at times it might be too concerned with practicality, and that there isn't really much storytelling in Western martial arts. And you talked about,
Well, yeah, yeah. Well, if you look at violence, right? Violence isn't pretty. It's ugly, and it's over really fast. No. So if you were to film reality, right, then you're going to show something that's gruesome and ends in seconds. It's not entertainment. No. And I heard a lot of people saying, oh, that wouldn't work for real, so therefore we can't do it. You know, it's not about whether it works for real or not. It's about how you make it work on film, how you make it believable on film. It's up to you to make it believable or not believable. You know, um, you cannot relate something to reality or what would happen in reality in the street to what you would show on film.
Yeah.
Now, it's two totally different things. And if you try to keep it on that reality basis where it wouldn't work for real, therefore we can't do it, then you're limited to what you're going to be showing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, there's no feel from the audience for it.
Yeah.
You know, so you know you got to entertain the audience, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you choreograph a fight, think about the audience. You know, and make sure you have them in mind when you choreograph. You're entertaining, but you also got to keep it believable. You got to make them believe everything you do,
Yeah.
even if it's unbelievable. You got to make it believable. You got to take the audience on a journey with your action. You know, so I mean, yeah, think more of entertainment than reality. Uh,
Thank you again for your insights, Mark. This has been a pleasure.
okay, right. Thank you. Okay, goodbye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us.